Okay, so now we'll go to page 28 and we'll look at the Sale of Goods and Supply of Services Act, okay? So what I want you to do as well is mark that, take a little note on the top of that there. It's come up 7 times in 20 years. Just to write that in there, like 35% you're leaving your papers, you walked in, opened it up and you've gotten this question on it, okay? So again, I want to focus on like the trickier things, but also the ones that come up a lot in your leaving cert, okay? So make sure you need to know this inside out. Now, really straightforward, like what we're going to do over roughly like the next 15 minutes is I'll show you everything you need on this, okay? So once you cover what we go through over the next 15 minutes, you know this inside out, right? So what they have here, we're moving into like chapter 2, right? And what we see with chapter 2 is deals with the consumer, okay? So chapter 1 is just a broad overview, people in business and contract law. Chapter 2 deals with like conflict between the business and the consumer. So what you're looking at here is this Sales of Goods and Supply of Services Act is really taken out to protect consumers and make you aware of your rights, and it's written on the side of the consumer. So it benefits, this act will benefit, it's good for the consumers, it benefits them, right? Now, one little quick thing, I'll actually just rub this out as well, because you guys have this written in here. So one little trick I remember as well is that, so everyone has it there on page 28, and write this in, it's come up on 35% you're leaving your papers. One thing I'd always do, if they ever ask me to evaluate the Sale of Goods and Supply of Services Act, the actual title gives you the 2 key points. First 2 key points will relate to goods and services, okay? So when you remember that, when you see the Sale of Goods Supply of Services Act, just think of goods and services, and they're 2 key compulsory points. And after that, I just think of rigs, okay? Just RIGS, if you want to write that in. Rigs, retail responsible, illegal signs, guarantees, and inertia selling. So if you want to follow me over here for a second, that's the R, retail responsible, the I, legal signs, the G is guarantee, and the S is inertia selling. So that's like a little trick that if you're in the leading cert, you want to make sure you remember them there. That's in their highlight. And I've underlined them there in your notes as well on page 28. But just that's a little trick. They ask you to broadly evaluate or write out the act. Just think of right, Sale of Goods, and because they'll write, like evaluate the Sale of Goods Supply of Service Act 1980. And you see, right, the word goods, first point's on goods, second point's on services, third point's on retail responsible, fourth one is on illegal signs, fifth one's on guarantees, and the sixth one's on inertia selling. Remember that, you're set. Right, so we'll look through it here. This is a really important one. When you're looking at goods, okay, and I draw an arrow beside it, it says compulsory point. You need to make sure you have this in your leaving cert yourself. Any goods sold must be of merchantable quality. And what they're getting at there, and they're saying merchantable quality, is they're saying that the goods sold must be of reasonable standard, okay? So goods sold must be a reasonable standard. Let's write in the keywords. Remember what it is in the leaving cert, the examiner's going to be looking out for the keywords. Goods sold must be of reasonable standard, taking into account what they're supposed to do, their durability and price. Remember guys, this is where they're very strict in the marking schemes to make sure any goods sold must be a reasonable standard, taking into account these 3 things: what they're supposed to do, their durability, how durable the good is, did it break easily, and the price you pay for it. And what they mean by this is a best example to use, and if we're playing by their rules market schemes, like they'd say like a €50 pen versus a €1 pen. Okay, so €50 pen, if that broke straight away, then you'd be entitled to a refund. Okay, because you paid a lot of money for it. Pen should be durable, and if it's not able to write, it's not of reasonable standard. Okay, it's not merchantable quality. But if you paid €1 for the pen and it broke after a couple of days, you're not entitled to a refund because you only paid €1. So that's what I mean there about the price point being very, very important. Okay, and the durability would be stuff like you'd expect that if you were to buy an oven that would be durable, it would last you for 5 to 10 years. Okay, so the durability of the good. Okay, so that's they're looking for there. Make sure guys are very tight when they're grading that leaving cert. Compulsory point, and what I mean by that being a compulsory point is that they'll actually say like, right, even if the candidate gives, that tells you when you're writing like that, say even if the candidate gives lots of amazing points but they leave this out, they're automatically going to be down 5 marks. So compulsory, sometimes they'll say, right, you'll see it in the notes, if you're ever even going to the marking scheme yourself, you see that sometimes they've marked it in bold and it might say compulsory point. That's just really, really important there. Second one then, guys, if you're looking at there, fit for purpose. Okay, so on the notes. First one there, John R. So I see it written in there, really important point, make sure you mark that in. Second one then on goods sold must be fit for purpose. So what they're getting at there with the good being, I'll throw it down, I'll throw it up here. fit for purpose. Point number 2. The good must do what it's designed to do and what it's supposed to do. So something like, imagine you buy an umbrella, the umbrella leaks, or the umbrella doesn't keep the rain out, it's not fit for purpose. It does not do what it's supposed to do and what it was designed for, okay? And the last one there, guys, is as described and identical to any sample shown. So if you walk into a TV shop and you say, I want this TV, 50-inch, whatever brand, colour, it has to be that exact one, okay? So identical to the exact model you picked out, okay? That's all they're looking for there. So that's the Sale, Goods, Supply of Service Act. Very, very straightforward. Big thing to note, guys, if these conditions aren't met, remember, guys, 1, merchantable quality, 2, fit for purpose, 3 is described. If they're not met, you're entitled to the 3 R's, and we're going to get into more detail in a minute. Refund, replace, repair, okay? Refund, they give you the money back, they replace it, they give you a new one, or they repair it, they fix it for you, okay? We'll get into that now in a second in a bit more detail, right? Now, that's the remedy part. All right, we'll look over here at services, okay? Services, what you're looking at really with services is, the first thing there is that the person who provided the service, okay, they had the necessary skill. So if you avail of a service, like let's say if you get an electrician into their house, first thing highlight there, they've got the necessary skill and they provide the service with due care and diligence. So they do the job right, okay? They make sure they get the job done right. That's a service. Remember, guys, the difference. Goods will be if you're buying a product like a television. Service is if you're getting someone out to work in your house, or any service like an accountant or anything like that. If you avail of a service, first thing there, they must provide they must have necessary skills for the job, and also they must provide the service with due care and diligence, okay? And that's what we're looking for there. Also, the remedy now, if you guys jump up down to the arrow here, now can you guys do a thing here? Can you draw an arrow here? The remedy, guys, it applies to goods and services. So what we see here, guys, highlight the remedy here, because it's really important part of the notes there. If any of these things here are broken, right? If any of the goods are broken or anything like that, or any of the terms of what they need for goods, or in terms of what they need for services, right? The remedy is going to be refund, replace, and repair. Alright, you see it there, it's laid out evenly in the notes there, but the remedy, if there's any problem with the goods or any problem with the services, you're entitled to remedy, refund, replace, repair. Okay, so what now, ideally, of course, you want a refund, okay? But what happens here, the remedy you get depends on 2 things. First is the type of fault, and this is crucial, and number 2 is the time frame, how long it was. Now, what I mean by this is, imagine if I buy a dryer for clothes, right, in my house, and after 3 years, if one of the lights just goes in the dryer still works, but it just makes, let's say, one of the lights on dryer, and like that, let's say better example, the handle breaks on dryer, right? But if I call them after 3 years and say, look, this handle, it's not great, it's worn down, the dryer won't close fully, I don't automatically get a refund. Because first off, the type of fault is minor, okay? It's not like the dryer's fallen apart completely, just the handle won't close very well. And the second thing, it's been 3 years, it's been a very, very long time frame. So they'll say to us, okay, fine, look, we'll come out and repair it for you, if it's covered under guarantee and stuff. So this is what you need to look out for, is that the remedy, you don't automatically get your money back. Okay, and this where it's a grey area, and this is where you have to figure it out with the shop. If you're not happy, that's you can take the small claims court, and that's when the whole thing opens up. But the remedy you get, guys, depends on first off, they look at what type of fault. If it's a major fault, then it's more likely you get a refund. But it's a minor fault, more likely you get a repair. And the time frame. And the longer the time frame, guys, the more likely is they'll repair it and not give you a refund straight away. But like another extreme thing would be like if I buy a TV, I take it home, and after 2 days the TV, it doesn't work, or the TV, whatever, it won't turn on right, or it turns off randomly. Well, that's a proper fault, and it's been a very, very short time frame, and it's meant to be a durable good. I get my money back straight away. I get a refund. Okay, so that's what you're looking out for there. But anyway, that's all they're looking for there. Make sure you mark this. You need to have this in detail, because students can be vague when they're explaining, and that's when they drop easy marks. Okay, you've got your 3 R's, and students remember that easy enough because it's easy: refund, replace, repair. But this what I don't see written enough in the Leaving Cert. It depends on the type of fault and the time frame involved. That's what you guys need to be putting in. Right, brilliant. Next one, the retailer is responsible. So what we get here is that, like, imagine, right, this didn't happen, but imagine like a scenario here that, like, if I went to let's say there's, or a better example, let's say it was like Sony, right? And I go to an electrical shop. Right, so imagine if it's me, I buy a Sony TV from an electronic shop, right? So I pay them €500 and they give me the TV. Now everybody, see the way I want to write this in. So I paid this electronic shop, there's three parties here. First off, there's Sony, the manufacturer, there's the shop, and then there's me, right? So I walk into a shop and I pay Sony £500, they give me a TV. What do we have there? We've got consideration. Remember guys, both parties have exchanged something of value, okay? So we've now got a binding contract with this electrical shop. After a day now, the TV breaks and I get back onto them and I say, look, the TV's faulty, it's broken down. And what they could say is they could turn around and say, right, Ron, yeah, you're right, the TV doesn't work. But of course, we didn't make the shop. We want you need to contact Sony directly and you need to ring them and make sure Sony give you a refund and you deal with it. But it's not our problem because we didn't make the TV. That is where Sony are wrong. It is their problem. What this act gets at is the retailer is responsible for resolving any complaint the consumer may have with the manufacturer. So as everyone see, I'll mark these in to make it a bit more clear. But see the parties here. You've got the manufacturer. Here we have the retailer, which is the shop. And here we've got the consumer, which is me. All right? Now, what happens here is they're saying here the retailer, the shop, is responsible for solving any complaints the consumer has. And this makes sense because, guys, the retailer, there's been consideration. The retailer have provided me with a functioning TV. And that's what they're meant to do, however they didn't. So they gave me a faulty TV. They broke their end of the deal. I paid them in full. I paid them for this TV. They didn't uphold their part of the bargain. So now the onus, guys, is on the retailer to resolve the complaint on behalf of the consumer. So what happens is they can't say to me, okay, Rónán, contact Sony. The electronic shop have to deal directly with Sony on my behalf and resolve the complaint. And that's you guys see there. See that the retailer responsible for solving a complaint of a consumer rests the retailer. This is because when a consumer buys a good or service, a contract is formed between both the retailer and the supplier. That's what I saw there. We were saying there earlier about the contract being formed. We've had consideration. Okay, so you make sure again we write this in. The retailer, write this in beside, double up on this notes and have lots of details. Say the retailer cannot tell the consumer to contact the manufacturer. Or write it in. The retailer must deal with the manufacturer on behalf of the consumer. The retailer must deal with the manufacturer on behalf of the consumer. The retailer is responsible. That's what they're getting there. Very, very straightforward stuff. That's what we have. Next one then, guys, illegal signs. Really, really easy. But this is what students do. They might say, you can't put a sign up that says no refunds, okay? And that's illegal, all right? So a shop isn't allowed to put up a sign that says no refunds because then they can just sell you faulty goods and then say, oh, look, we're not giving you a refund on that, and that's against the law. Do you remember, guys, going back to this law, guys, goods sold must be of merchantable quality. If the good isn't of merchantable quality, you are entitled to a refund. So going back here with these illegal signs, a shop isn't just allowed to put up a sign saying, right, we want to break the law, and our shop policy is no refunds. That's against the law. But we need more detail than that, okay? Because it's so easy to explain. Every single student who leaves their business will understand that. What you need to mark in there, though, this is the key stuff, this is what students leave out. It is an offence for shops to put up these signs, okay? So if a shop puts up this sign, they're breaking the law. So it's an offence to put up for retailers to put up signs such as no refunds, which leads consumers into believing that they do not have their legal rights, okay? Or gives consumer impression that they do not have certain rights, okay? So make sure you spot that in. Gives consumer impression that they have no legal rights. Illegal signs, not allowed to give. It's an offence to put up signs such as no refunds that give the consumer impression they do not have their legal rights. So make sure you draw a box around that word there. It's key, the word offence. All right, next one. Guarantees. Okay, so what are they getting with this with guarantees? So what we see here is you've got the law and then you've got a guarantee. Okay, this is the way to look at this, and this is a little bit confusing, but basically what we see here is that, like, the angle we you've seen before with shops is like sometimes a shop will put up a sign saying, or a shop, let's say if I buy a TV, and I buy TV in a shop and they say, look, Rónán, this TV comes with an 8-year guarantee. All right, and then I sign the terms of their guarantee, and I'm like, brilliant, my TV's coming with an 8-year guarantee, and I take the TV home, and the TV breaks after 2 days, and I knock back into the shop and say, look, TV's faulty under the Sale of Goods and Supply of Service Act. You guys have sold me a television that was not of merchantable quality. I'm entitled to a refund. Okay, it's a big fault, and it's in a very short time period. Okay, so the TV broke after 2 days, short time period, proper fault, I'm entitled to a refund. So I knock into the shop and I say, look, the law says I need a refund. The shop can turn around then and say, well, look, Rónán, you've signed the terms of our guarantee, and our guarantee is that we repair any flaws in your TV. So the guarantee, they're like, well, look, according to the terms of our guarantee, we guaranteed you that any faults in TV we repair, but the law says I'm entitled to a refund. Okay, so what happens here? The law comes first. Okay, that's what they want you to spot. Okay, any guarantee, that's fine. It's extra protection. Okay, the way you mark in there with guarantees, guys, they're extra protection, but they do not overwrite the law. And that's what you guys need to highlight in the notes there. Guarantees are seen as extra protection, however, they do not overwrite the law. So if the consumer's entitled to a refund, they get the refund regardless of what the guarantee says. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Okay, nothing else. But make sure you see the purpose of it. Make sure some students don't really understand why that's the case, and you can see that when they're explaining it. Say that they're guarantees, they're there for extra protection. You know, they might say they'll repair the TV for 8-10 years. That's fine. But if you want a refund, and if it's a fault that happens quickly, and it's a major flaw, and the law says you're entitled to a refund, you get a refund, regardless of what the law says, regardless of what the guarantee says. The last one, all right, number 6, is inertia selling. Now you need to mark this in here, and just right beside this here. Write this in beside it, guys. It's called unsolicited goods as well. Okay, so make sure you got this here. Unsolicited goods, inertia selling or unsolicited goods. Now, if you mark this in, this is where goods are sent to a person who hasn't ordered them, and then seller demands payment for them. This is illegal. So this is a bit of a scam that basically businesses would have been doing, is that they'd deliver something to someone's house. It might be like an example, might be like a toaster or something like that, and then I get the toaster delivered to my name, and I say, okay, grand, I never ordered a toaster, but I'll use it, and then 2 months later I get a bill, and for like £100 for a toaster, and the shop are demanding payment. Now you might think, like, why the hell are they doing this? The whole why would this happen? It was a scam basically. What they do is it would happen in the 70s and stuff. They post the good to somebody, they get the good in the post, they'd open it and use it, and then when they've used this, they'll get a bill for it with an inflated price, like 3-4 times the price meant to be. They'll call up the company and say, look, I never ordered this off you, and the company basically will run the scam or whatever. They'll say, well, by our systems you've used the good, we don't want it back, we're going to take you to court. And a lot of time people would just pay the £200 or whatever the bill was, rather than have the hassle of going to court. Okay, and that's where people got caught up, and it really just a scam that was outlawed in the Sale of Goods Supply of Service Act. Okay, so it just made an offence to it. So, and it also brought in certain rights to consumer, and a great one to double up on, right? If you write this in, the consumer. Let's imagine if I get something in the post that I never ordered. If I'm entitled to keep it after 30 days on the condition that I've given the shop a written notice, like an email telling them you posted this to me in hours. So imagine if I get sent, again, an example of a toaster or something, and if I email them saying, look, you sent this toaster to me, I never ordered it, if they haven't collected it off me in 30 days, then I actually legally own it. Okay, and that's where you get with inertia selling. Okay, so the big thing you want to spot, first thing to start off in it straight away, is inertia selling, and explain what it is. In the leave cert, this is where the seller sends a good to a consumer who hasn't ordered it and demands payment for it. Okay, explain what it is, and then say this is illegal, and then you explain, double up, and the third point on it is you explain that the consumer is actually entitled to keeping it if they've given after 30 days, if they've given the seller a written notice. So going over that again, if you explain inertia selling or unsolicited goods, 3 points. First one, seller sends goods to a consumer who hasn't ordered them and then demands payment for it. Second point, it's illegal. Third point, consumers entitled to keeping it after 30 days as long as they've given the seller written notice that they have the good. That's it. That's what they're looking for on that question there. One other little thing that you guys, that's the Sale Goods and Supply Services Act wrapped up there with it. The only little bit of advice I'd have for you guys is if you jump over there to page 34 for a second, and the notes, you can see the question there from see the question there from 2017, the second one down there. My advice would be to make sure you start practicing those types of questions. They're good for students to actually get into doing really good challenging question there. See, I've written down at the bottom page 34, compulsory point. If you can follow me back there, it's the one about merchant milk quality. Okay, can you write that in the bottom of page 34? The compulsory point there is merchant milk quality. But if you're wanting to test yourself in a good challenging question there, go for one there on page 34, 2017 for 20 marks. Remember we had earlier 20 marks, write in your notes there, 8 minutes. If you want to test yourself, see where you stand, that's exactly what I'd be doing within those 8 minutes. A really important last little thing to look out for there, guys, is page 36. And I advise you to sit down and make sure you go through that sample answer there on page 36, highlight all the key terms. That's that answer there in a lot more detail. But you see what I mean with this? Again, guys, 20 mark questions. You know, I keep saying they love asking questions from 20 marks. That's 8 minutes. Even the previous page there, page 35, again, same thing, 20 marks, 8 minutes. Okay, but if you're looking at what we've done there, we've already covered about, in an hour and 15, we've covered at least 5% of your Leaving Cert course. Okay, we've done about 6 or 7% of the course. Like, that's literally, like, if you spend another class on that today, that pace, we'd have wrapped up Unit 1. And Unit 1 there's 7 units in the course. You can really, if you go through this efficiently, know what the examiner's looking for, follow my notes, you can get this course wrapped up very, very quickly. And again, we're still paying attention to all the key things you need. Okay, so once you follow and going through this here, you've got really everything you need to nail the exam on that. Okay, so we'll leave that for today. Thanks. Okay, guys, so usually when you do this, like, students might have questions after class I could run through, but obviously that can't happen here. So what I'll do is I'll just run through questions that I find students will ask me a bit. So first thing there would be like, when do the classes take place? There's 3 classes, so 2 of them are on Stillorgan location on Wednesday nights at 8:15 and on Saturday afternoon at 12:15. Okay, so I take both those classes, and Rob takes the class on Saturdays in Colester from 10:30 to 11:45. Okay, so again, we work off. It's myself and Rob put these notes together. Basically, put these books together. So we work through the exact same notes, all that sort of stuff, exact same pace, content, everything else. Okay, so it's very similar in those ways. The next thing then is, do we cover the entire course in 1 year? Yeah, we do. Now with that, we've 29 classes. Okay. And you really need those 29 classes to get everything you need wrapped up in the year. But again, like I've said, I've plenty of students who basically taken up business with me in 6th year from the very start, worked very hard, pulled out the A1 or the H1 with only using my notes and nothing else. Okay, how did they go about that? They obviously worked really hard in class. They brought up lots of sample work to me that I'd graded for them, worked with them and that. And then the other big thing is that they'd have done very well is they'd applied themselves very hard from the start of the year. So the way I go through in these classes, I start off in September, and what I'd assume is a lot of students, if they'd done it before in 5th year, they might have done from units 1 to 4. So I start straight away in unit 5, 6 and 7. And we focus most of our time on unit 5. Okay, it's probably going to come up as 2 long questions, as it does most years, which is 30%. It's going to come up in your ABQ again for another 30 marks, which is another 7.5%. See, a couple of times it's short questions. Unit 5 there for you guys in your Leaving Cert could be worked roughly based on, be around 35% of your Leaving Cert paper. 35 to 40% of your actual exam can boil down to Unit 5. So we focus hugely on that at the start. And what we do as well is we go through your ABQ. So I work in units 5 to 7 in the ABQ before Christmas. Then after that, from January to May, we revise back over units 1 to 4. And that's the way we do it. So really what I've done is I have 2 different types of books. I have one book from units 1 to 4, and I have a second book then which goes through units 5 to 7. So we have 2 books, one book for each term. One little thing as well is that, like, the books are they're subject to basically availability of how students sign up. So if you sign up in September, you get both books. But if students sign up in January, they don't get the book from previous terms. We basically they cost a lot to print out, so we only have a set amount of them. Okay, so on that then, if you guys follow me over here, one little thing I want to stress to students is that I really encourage students to get in. Actually, if they're aiming for a high grade in this, you have to do it right from the start of the year. It's a tough exam. That's what I want to stress to students, is that most students, like the H1 rate 4%. And you can see all this, you look up all this online, it's all available. But if you're looking at the business grades, most students will get in their leaving cert H4 or less. Okay, so that's like, you see that there, it's like 60% of people who end up doing a higher level exam, ignoring all the students who do ordinary level. The students who make it into higher level, the bulk of them are going to get H4 or less. Okay, if you're aiming for the higher grade, you have to make sure you're working really, really hard in this subject. And that's what I want to stress to business, that like, don't be lulled into a false sense of security thinking, okay, it's easy because the content isn't that complicated. There's lots of ways that you might have seen in the class today, like little things they do to pull down your grades and things students can miss. That's why you need the 29 classes to go through and properly grind this thing out. Every single class will always be showing you the mistakes students do, shortcuts around the course, basically saving you time studying. That's my goal with this, is not enough to show you how to get the H1. The angle I take with this is saying like, right, how can I show you the tricks around the paper? How can I show you what to focus on, memorising tricks? So like, you're saving yourself those couple of hours each week studying. You're studying what's important, what's going to pull your grade up in the leaving cert. It's about studying smarter, not just studying really, really hard on this subject. If you do it right, you'll get the grade you're aiming for. But that's what I want to stress. It's a very, very tricky exam. That's why I find students who come in start of the year, they're the students who are obviously who are obviously a much better chance of performing better than students who join later on in the year. You get the books in advance, you get the structuring, and of course we're starting in Unit 5, which is the most important unit in your Leaving Cert this year. The most important of all 5 units is Unit 5, and we're doing that in our first class in September. Okay, thank you very much. All right.